Hey guys, it's Claire. Welcome to In the Real, the podcast that provides a safe space to talk about whatever we want with absolutely no judgment. And today I'm here with one of my history professors, Brian Dirck.
Hello.
Are you excited, sir?
I am quite excited, and this is also giving me a break from grading final exams, so it's all good.
Yay! Yeah, well, I guess my first question for you is what are your thoughts on the recent place we're in as a society, as a world, with everything going on in Europe, COVID? What are your thoughts?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, I bring an historian's perspective to this after all. It's kind of what I do for a living. On the one hand, you kind of look around and you go, oh my God, things are a mess, right? You have the potential for a very ugly war in Europe. And there are a great number of highly contentious political issues in the United States right now. I mean, I could just tick them off and we could spend the next hour just ticking them off. I mean, it's really ugly. And I know students like yourself, you seem apprehensive. God knows I don't blame you one bit. I study primarily another really, really ugly, contentious period in American history, which would be the Civil War era. And it helps though. It helps because you can go back and look at people in the 1850s prior to the Civil War, and of course they were extremely apprehensive and they were worried about the future and they were, oh my goodness, the world is falling apart. And well, they have reason to think that since there's a really, really big war coming. On the other hand, there's kind of a whole sort of this too shall pass. It always does. Every generation has its challenges. Your parents, my parents, our grandparents would have said much the same things about the time period in which they lived. I mean, good Lord, my grandparents lived through the Great Depression and World War II. I mean, it could be much worse, So, my feeling is, yes, we live in extremely challenging days. But if you take the long view and you look at historical trends and you look at the fact that we've never lived in a time in which things were peaceful and we all got along. That's a myth, that makes me feel a bit better about things.
Yeah, do you think social media has made things worse for the things that we're dealing with?
as we're talking on Zoom, right? Yeah, it's
Literally.
like, well, yeah, hey, well, there you go. Okay, I'm gonna pull the old man professor thing. I remember back in the day when we first got the internet. Yes. Look, I'm going to be weaselly here and say yes and no, because yes, as in social media has opened up the possibilities for people to basically say and sometimes even do anything without consequences. We all know this. I mean, if I were of a mind to do so, I could create a Twitter account or a Facebook page or any kind of social media account with a fake name and a fake identity. And if I wanted to, I could do all sorts of sketchy, bad things and, really offend people and get away with it. I mean, it's happening quite a bit. And yeah, you look at social media and you go, whoa, we never really saw that coming. I mean, when this all started back in the early 90s, everybody's very excited. It was like, wow, we're gonna be all connected. I mean, this is really cool. There's all these really great things we could have. Nobody, I think, foresaw the really, really dark side of the internet coming, which we all know that this exists. So yeah, there's some really bad stuff here. On the other hand, as an historian, taking the historian's view, you go back to the 1820s, the 1830s, the advent of cheap newspaper print, the advent of widespread journalism where anybody with a few bucks could go print a newspaper. They do the same things, I mean, they're saying the same things. They're like, oh my God, we've got all these print media out there. Now any idiot can print something and pretend it's the truth and never have any consequences. You saw the same thing in the 1890s with what was called yellow journalism, where newspapers had no restraint. They just published those bald-faced lies. Heck, one of which got us into a war. The Spanish-American War was about the rumors that the Spanish had blown up an American battleship, which they did. So again, historically, you look at this and go, we've been through this before, maybe not on this scale, like global scale, but we've certainly been through it in other ways. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think is going to be next? Do you think we're going to have any point of calmness, or do you think things in Europe are going to progress more? I mean, things have settled down enough to where we're not talking about it, but like,
yeah.
do you think that that's going to blow over anytime soon?
Boy, historians are terrible at predictions. We look backwards. I can tell you all day long what happened. What's going to happen is a different gig. There's certainly the potential for the Ukrainian crisis to blow up into at the very least, a Western Hemisphere thing. I've even heard some very dark talk about World War III. I mean, we are, after all, talking about in Russia, a nation with nuclear weapons. It's going to make anybody uncomfortable.
Oh, we're going to have another Kennedy debacle.
Worse. And Vladimir Putin doesn't strike me as the most stable soul on earth. And I can see this turning into something. My personal feeling, just looking at history, Ukraine has a long history of what you might call guerrilla warfare and partisan resistance. They did this during World War II. They made the Nazis' lives nightmarish when the Nazis were in there. They've got a long history of this kind of thing. Frankly, what I think is going to happen, again, I'm a big grain of salt here. I'm an historian. That means I probably don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm going to do it anyway. I think this whole thing is going to bog down into a stalemate. I don't think Putin can back out because he's put too much of himself into it. He can't win. I think that's quite clear. I mean, he doesn't have the resources. The Russian army is way overrated. I think it's going to bog down into a guerrilla fight that's going to basically eat Russia alive over the next few years. That's what I think is going to happen. I don't think it's going to turn into like World War III. I can't imagine why it would, but that's what I think. Yeah.
No, I mean, the only thing we know for certain is that Putin significantly underestimated the Ukrainian army and other forces.
And significantly overestimated his own forces. I read an interesting article about this in the Atlantic a while back, which argued that this is a common trap that dictators fall into, because dictators are very scary people. So you don't want to contradict that guy. You don't want to cross him. You're going to end up in the gulag out in Siberia or worse. So you surround yourself with yes men and people that tell you what you want to hear. And what a lot of people are saying is he was told by these yes men, our army is great. We can conquer anything. All this stuff works really well. Turns out it doesn't work all that well. They've got all kinds of mechanical and logistical, and the unsexy part of waging war is blowing up in his face. I mean, he can throw a parade in Moscow Square and watch his tanks go down and do all that stuff, but getting enough trucks to carry food to soldiers and getting enough oil to the tanks and all that is completely falling apart in him. He has no infrastructure to support a long-term occupation. That's the problem. Yeah.
I mean, he also just doesn't care about the people fighting for him. He just wants power. So
yeah.
He doesn't care what happens.
No, he's a typical dictator. And also Russian history. Look what the Russians did in World War II under Stalin. I mean, they bought time by just throwing thousands upon thousands upon thousands of Russian peasants at the Nazi war machine to basically slow them down. The Nazis couldn't kill fast enough, and that's how they won that thing. More people died on the Eastern Front in Russia than died in the Holocaust. I mean, you're talking about tons of millions and millions of people. Russia's got a really, really dark history here, and Putin's just the latest in a long line going back at least to Ivan the Terrible,
No, literally. I mean, I'm not afraid of him, certainly. If he has a problem with a girl from Indiana, clearly he shouldn't be in the position he is.
I don't think you got to worry about anything, Claire. I think he's got bigger fish to fry, but here. There you go. Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
I do like the seclusion that we have over here in the U.S.
There's something to be said for living in the Midwest, right? I mean, other than a few tornadoes, what can really get to us out here?
I know, as soon as we can get access to our own gasoline again, we'll be on top.
There you go.
Yeah. So you had the privilege and pleasure to spend some time in Japan.
Yes, I did.
Please talk about that.
Well, I'll try not to talk too much about it because it was the event of a lifetime. I probably talked about this when you were in my class. I practice a martial art called Kendo, which literally means the way of the sword. It's basically Japanese fencing. And I've been doing this for quite a few years now. And in 2018, I went to Japan with my Kendo buddies on a Kendo trip, and we had a blast. We practiced all these dojos. We really did some really cool stuff. Fell in love with the country, and the minute I got back, I was like, how can I get back there, man? This is so cool. So I started looking around, And there's a program called the Fulbright Program, which most everybody's heard of. The State Department runs it. It's an exchange program. Well, I mean, students, they have more student exchange than they do anything else, but they've also got teacher exchange. And they had a program that you could apply to go to live in Japan for a year and teach American history classes to Japanese students who are interested in American history. And what's better, you don't have to know Japanese, thank God, because I know just enough Japanese to get myself thrown in jail or something. Okay, so I have no earthly idea about that. So I was like, score, that's what I want to do. So I applied for it, which was a massive undertaking. The application process took months. I won't go into all the details, but I had to go do that. And I got real lucky because it's a competitive scholarship, but I got the scholarship to go teach for a year in Japan. Then Mr. Pandemic shows up. Oh, yeah. Well, we've gotten how much? 10 minutes into the podcast and not brought up the pandemic till now, but we have now. So there we go. Pandemic showed up. Yeah, guys, I mean, I'm not going to bore you with the details. It's just supposed to be a year-long visit. Japan completely shut down. Fulbright program totally shut down. They had to postpone, do a bunch of other stuff. Ended up only spending 4 months, which I had to live with that. I went over in April of 2021 and got back in August of 2021. So I got a chance to teach a semester over there and taught American history classes at the University of Tokyo and at Kuritsu Women's University. Lived in Tokyo for 4 months. I got to practice a lot of great Kendo on the side, met wonderful, wonderful people. Got to climb a sacred mountain in Japan in Nara Prefecture, which was scary like you wouldn't believe. And because this is like, dude, a mountain. Okay. I was like, I'm from central Indiana, guys. We don't do mountains. Okay. We don't even do hills. I mean, we haven't got bumps, right? I was like, oh my God, this thing is a mountain, So I got to climb the mountain and all that. And that was like super cool. And just the events of a lifetime. I'm still kind of processing it, and I came back with a bunch of stuff I think makes me a better AU teacher. I taught a different cohort of students, taught a different set of classes that I normally do at AAU. I taught a different set of subject matter that I did. For example, I teach a class on public history here at AAU, and I got a chance to go look at some Tokyo museums and public history installations. And I was able, just a couple weeks ago in my public history class, I was showing them slides. Here's what they do with museums over there and stuff. So it was super awesome, and I can't say enough great things about it.
I remember when we got an email, like your whole class got an email, everyone who signed up to be in your class the following fall. Dirk's going to Japan. And we're all like, so like, is he leaving? And are we not taking this class anymore?
No, God, no. Yeah, well, the funny
I was very surprised when you came back. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, but the funny part was I applied for this thing a long time ago. I mean, I applied for it like a year and a half ago, right? So I'd applied for it. I got accepted, did my touchdown dance, booyah. Then I started dating the woman who became my wife, okay? we were dating, started to get serious, and then I was like, honey, I got this thing over in Japan. I got to go over there,
You're like, bye.
Bye. Yeah. Lisa was super understanding. Okay. And we got married. Actually, if I had gone over for a full year, we would have had to postpone our wedding. But since it was only 4 months, we were able to get married. And she was just so absolutely awesome. I mean, we FaceTimed every day and she was super supportive. Listened to me tell her about all the weird foods in Japan and all that stuff. And it was just super cool.
So it worked out the way it needed to.
It really did. God was watching out for me. Okay. I was apprehensive about a full year. I really was. I was just told you need to apply for a full year if you want to get this thing. But a year away from my dad, who's 82 years old, has health issues, my kids, Lisa, that was heavy, So I think at the end, the Lord is looking out for me and saying, 4 months is enough. And I think it was perfect. It really was. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. God has a weird way of being like, here's what you need right now.
I do. And I was kind of praying about it. And I was like, God, I think you probably know what you're doing. So I'm just going to go with the flow here,
Like 9 out of 10 times he knows.
Oh, yeah. I pretty much kind of put my trust in that. And at the end of the day, I got everything I wanted to get out of the trip. It's the event of a lifetime. I'm a Fulbright scholar now, which is pretty cool. And, and got to see some really, really, really great things. So at the end of the day, it was all good.
Yeah. I mean, what is the biggest difference between teaching in Japan versus teaching here? Obviously, they don't speak, some of them probably speak English, but they're native in Japanese.
Well, that, of course, was a big thing. Now, they were part of American studies programs at their universities, which I was told, I was like, look, they're not getting into your class unless they got some English. And English, by the way, is the most popular foreign language to take in Japan because it's considered to be the language of business and commerce. And a lot of Japanese want to do, business related things. So they all had some English. On the other hand, Claire, you had me in class. A lot of people, I talk a lot. I talk fast. And one of the main things I had to do was slow it down, really think carefully about what I was saying. So I wasn't making like weird little references that make sense to American students, but the Japanese have no idea what I'm talking about. And then I had to really scale back like my reading assignments because I don't want to assign like a big old honking textbook in English that they just can't handle. I had to kind of scale back my writing assignments into like more short essay answer questions as opposed to big papers. So I had to really take into account that language barrier. Japanese students, I saw a lot more that was like you guys than not like you guys. They're very polite, extremely polite. They're not used to the kind of give and take that I do in class. You've had me in class. I like to walk in and just riff. They tend to have more of a professor is the lecturer, we listen and take notes model as opposed to a give and take. And after about a month of teaching, they got more comfortable with that. And I could walk in and say, hey guys, what do you think of this? And I'd get some interaction. But it took a little while before they kind of eased into that a little bit. But they were just so cool. Several of my I got to teach graduate students, which I don't ever get to do at AU because we don't have a graduate program in history. Several of my graduate students actually took an entire day off from their finals and squired me around Tokyo and showed me the sights and took me out to dinner. And I was like, wow.
That's so nice.
They were so nice.
That wouldn't happen in America.
Well, no, I'm not even making an invidious comparison, but I was like, yeah. That's so cool. I mean, because they're extremely busy. I had one student who was taking the exams to get a job in the agricultural ministry, which in Japan, you've arrived if you get a bureaucrat's job. They love that stuff. And she was up to her eyeballs and that stuff. She took her time out to go help me do that. I was like, Neil, that's so sweet. I was just so cool. Yeah.
No, I've noticed Japanese people are very grateful.
Very grateful, very polite, very, if they see that you're making a real effort to speak Japanese and to understand their culture, man, they'll meet you more than halfway. So I did teach myself as much Japanese as I could, and I was always trying to use Japanese. My stock phrase was "Watashi wa mada nihongo ga dosuja arimasen sumimasen," which basically says, "Excuse me, my Japanese sucks right now." And they all start laughing, and then we start talking about But if they could see that I wasn't the typical American tourist who thinks if you can shout English loud enough, they'll understand. If you don't treat them like that, then they'll we tend to be that way, But if they can see you're trying to meet them halfway, oh my God, they were so helpful and nice. They really were. Yeah.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah.
If you had the opportunity to do that again, I'm assuming you would definitely take that.
In a freaking heartbeat. Although, I don't know how my wife would feel about that. Honey, I'm going back. No, I mean, I would love to go back for a short visit. I don't think I'll probably be able to do a Fulbright again. It's just the strain of my family life is too great. And I missed you guys. I really did. I missed my AU students something awful. And I took a sabbatical, of course, to do this. I'd love to go again for a brief visit just because I'd love to go back and see my friends. I made a lot of good friends among the students and my faculty and my Kendo mates, where I got to study with some like amazing Kendo people. I mean, they invented Kendo. This is samurai swordsmanship. And I was just like standing around going, whoa, the whole time. So yeah, if I could do that, I totally would do it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Are there any other places you'd want to travel and teach?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm open-minded. Lisa and I would love to go to Ireland someday. And I dig English history. I kind of inflicted some of that on you guys in my inquiry class, So we've actually talked about going to England and Ireland just, to visit. I don't know. I would love to get some experience teaching in some different places. I've been to Korea and I really enjoyed that.
I want to go to Korea.
Korea is really cool. You should try it. Seoul is just the neatest city. I got invited to visit. I gave a speech. Get this for the Korean Abraham Lincoln Society. Yeah, I did the same thing. I was like, dude, that's a thing.
I think the biggest thing that it's easy to tell about you, if you walk into your office especially, is you have this sort of certain love and appreciation and admiration for a very tall man who is no longer alive.
Yeah, God, yeah, the whole Abe thing.
Yeah, talk about
God.
Abe. What got
Well,
you into him?
Well, I'll tell you what, my great, I probably told you guys this story in class before, but my great grandmother was rabidly pro-Confederate, would not allow the name Abraham Lincoln to be spoken in her house. And I feel if I run into her in the afterlife, I got some splaining to do. It's like, Grandma, it seemed like a good idea at the time.
She'll avoid you like that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what? I didn't plan it this way. My interest was originally when I was originally an art major as an undergraduate, believe it or not, for a year, and then I thought, you know what? Paying the bills, probably a good idea. I don't want to, an art major is not going to get me where I want to go. So I decided to go into history, and I wanted to do Civil War military history. I was really into that whole thing. And then I went to graduate school, kind of took some classes with a guy named Phil Paladin at the University of Kansas, who was a specialty in legal and constitutional issues of the Civil War. And he was writing a book on Abraham Lincoln, and I was his research assistant. And I just kind of fell into it. My dissertation was on Lincoln. I didn't think I'd do everything on Lincoln. I figured I'm just going to do the Civil War, but I'll do Abe. But then stuff just kept coming up. It was like, hey, wow, nobody's ever really done a good book on his law practice. I'll do that. Hey, wow, nobody's ever really done anything on what Lincoln thought about the Constitution. I'll do that. Next thing you know, it's 2022, and I've written 9 books, and 7 of them are on Abraham Lincoln. Whatever. I mean, I deeply admire the man. I think he's an American hero, but I'm not married to the guy. I mean, I think he's got flaws.
I think you would have been married to the guy if he was still alive.
I should have, past life. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So, I try to explain to students, it's like, guys, if you want to say nasty things about Lincoln, I'm not going to go jump down your throat. Okay. I mean, there's some things he got wrong, but he's interesting. He's important. And what I found when I went to Korea and Japan is he is probably our most well-known American historical figure, even more than Washington. I mean, everybody knows Lincoln. They may not know a thing about American history, man, but they know Abe. And that right there means something, I think. Yeah.
No, absolutely. How many books of him do you think you have?
God, I don't know. I got a whole wall over there one side. I just keep, but you know what? I mean, there are so bloody many books on him. Somebody did a study of this once, and they said more words have been written in the English language about Abraham Lincoln than any other person other than Jesus. So there are something like 15,000 titles. So I mean, wow, right? I don't know. I've got several hundred. I'm not collecting them or anything. I just end up with them. Well, I mean, people send me stuff. I mean, I'll have, hey, Brian, could you endorse my book and get the blurb in the back? Yeah, sure. I got that in the shelf. Next thing you know, I got all this stuff, and then I've got things I use in my research and things. But the nice thing about Lincoln is, AU's a teaching institution, thank God, and the main thing we do is classroom stuff. But we're also supposed to do research. The nice thing about Lincoln is the primary sources, they're all mostly easily available. I don't have to go to an archives halfway across the country, which I can't afford, and because I can't get a lot of time off from teaching to do. But like all of his papers are online. I've got newspaper data online. I got all this. You talked about the internet a while ago. The internet's made my job tons easier. I can find probably 95% of the stuff I need without having to get up, go drive to like Washington, D.C., for example, and go into the Library of Congress or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, other than Abraham Lincoln, what are some other aspects of history that you find really interesting that people might not really expect from you?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm really interested. I mean, my major field, when you get a PhD, you have a major field. And then for KU, University of Kansas, where I went, you had 2 minor fields. I mean, different universities do it different ways. My major field is U.S. legal and constitutional history, actually. It's not even Lincoln or the Civil War. It's that. So that's something that I tell people at AU that. I'm like, hey, man, I really dig the Constitution and constitutional issues and stuff. But I don't often get to talk about those things, so that's something that people probably find a lot. And also I've got a pretty strong military history background. Next year, I'm actually doing a class on the Vietnam War that it's way outside my normal comfort zone, but I'm sure you're aware we're losing Professor Schrock, who is, the provost, who's going to move on, and we're going to really miss him. And he's a history guy, and he did 20th century. So I'm getting his 20th century classes. So I got to start teaching the 20th century. So I'm going to, get back into some stuff I've not done in a very long time. But yeah, that people tend to be a little surprised by that. And then I really do dig, of course, Japanese history. I've gotten a bit of a background on that, and I really dig English history. I love British stuff. I really do.
Yeah. And I guess my final official question before we get into our rapid fires is, what was it like to have me in class? I ask all my professors.
Oh, Claire, you were a treasure. Okay, you had nice stuff to say. I could tell you were paying attention. See, here's a little secret, then we'll let you get in on. You professors, we can tell when you're not paying attention. Okay, so yeah, your head was in the game. You were a joy to have in class. Absolutely.
Yay!
There you go.
All right, are you ready for the rapid fire questions?
Fire away, fire away.
I don't know if you like sports teams, but what's your favorite sports team?
I'm from Kansas City area. I'm a Chiefs fan and a diehard Royals fan. That's really rare, but there we go.
Yeah. Who's someone you look up to?
Somebody that I look up to, I would say Barack Obama. He's one of my favorite people. Regardless of politics, I just think he's a bright, trendsetting man. I really do.
Yeah. Pancakes or waffles?
Oh, waffles. I had two this morning, as a matter of fact. Yeah, definitely waffles. Yeah.
Favorite TV show?
Oh, sadly, it's Downton Abbey. I love me some Downton Abbey. Okay, I'm sorry, that's really sad, but there you go. Downton's my thing. I love Downton Abbey. Yeah.
Are you gonna see the new movie that they're doing?
God, yes. If it ever comes in 100 miles, you're darn right I will. Absolutely. Yeah.
I was in the theater with my roommate seeing the new Fantastic Beasts, and they played the trailer for that. I was like, Maggie Smith's
really
in that?
good,
I was like, okay,
yeah.
might just have to go watch all of it so I can watch Maggie Smith.
You've got to. Oh, Maggie Smith is the bomb. Okay, she just made that the best burns ever. Okay. Oh yeah.
An icon, truly.
Oh yeah.
Do you have any hidden talents?
Well, boy, I don't know. I have hidden lack of talent. I can't sing or dance worth a flip. There's that, gosh, not really, I'm pretty much an open book, so there you go.
Yeah. What's your dream car?
My dream car? Oh, a Cobra. I love old AC Cobras from the 1960s. They go way faster than an old man like me ought to be driving. That's my dream car.
What's the best advice you've ever received?
My old advisor Phil Paladin told me, the best thing to do if you write a book and you get a bad review, which I haven't had too many, but I've had some, the best thing you do is just shut up and move on. He said, don't try to respond, don't get too tied up in it, just let it roll. And I thought that was really good advice.
Yeah. Are you confident in your answers?
Pretty much. Yeah. Why not? At this point, I'll just throw it out there. There we go. Yeah.
Yeah. And usually at this point of the podcast, I would have you sign the plaque, but obviously we're doing it virtually. So I'll bring it by your office sometime and we'll get it signed.
Sounds good. Yeah. I'll be there Friday for a luncheon, but we can do sometime this summer or fall.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, with that being said, that's all I have for you. So thank you so much for being on my podcast.
Blast. I really appreciate it. If I can do anything else to help, let me know.
Of course. Yeah.